I bet my future on a business opportunity. Moved my fiance and I to Vietnam. I've been here for 5 months now and my business partner still hasn't delivered anything. As I'm about to do my third rebuild in the last 5 years from scratch, I thought it was a good time to finally reflect and make this video. I know how that might sound, but I've rebuilt from scratch more than enough times now to where this is a Tuesday for me. Now the question becomes, how does someone even get to this point in the first place? And this is what that video is about. So come on, let's go for a ride. Picture my life. It's 2019, I'm 22 years old. That's me. In a hairnet, got my blue apron on, and I'm working in my hometown cheese factory. My dad had been working in that same factory for over 35 years, so I thought that was just what life looked like. You show up, you flip these 40 kilogram cylinders of cheese every hour for 12 hours, and then you go home and then you do it again the next day. But something was rotting inside of me. My days off, smoking weed, pack of cigarettes a day, drinking hard liquor sometimes on a random Tuesday, video games, with the same group of people. We were all in the same dead loop. I'd live for the weekend and hate Mondays. I'd scroll social media for hours like everyone else, and occasionally find people actually living, traveling, building, becoming someone. I'd get this fire in my chest, this feeling that could be me. Then I'd look up from my phone, and there I am, in my hairnet, my blue apron, in the cheese factory. That gap between watching other people live and you just being there existing, that does things to you. It either breaks you or it lights something under you. For a while it broke me. I wasn't inspired, I was jealous. And jealousy with nowhere to go turns into something darker. I was definitely depressed, if not from really one big moment, but just the slow drip of feeling like everyone else got a life and you got this, with seemingly nowhere to go. I needed something. Anything. March of 2020. COVID hits everywhere. Estonia locks down, so for a while there's no work available. I had around $5,000 saved. On my 23rd birthday, where I got hammered with my friends in my mom's apartment, Bitcoin had crashed to around 5K a coin. Because I wanted to make some money, I put a big chunk of that money into Bitcoin and Ethereum. Half a Bitcoin and 17 Ethereum to be exact. In the next month, I'm doing my daily late night YouTube binge, where I'd watch random videos for hours. But this time something different comes up. The Joe Rogan podcast with David Goggins. In the video, Goggins says he wanted to feel something besides defeat, so he became a Navy SEAL. That touched that depressed part of me. That part that felt like he wasn't enough, and felt like there was nowhere to go, and hadn't seen really a big win in his whole life. I didn't want to be a Navy SEAL like David Goggins, but I wanted to not be in that cheese factory my dad had worked in for 35 years. He also said that no one is coming to save you. So I decided to try and save myself by starting to do things to challenge myself. That same moment, the first thing I thought of was, let's do 1,000 push-ups. I'd never done more than maybe 200 in a day, so I started pumping them out. I remember I couldn't do more than 10 to 15 at a time that night. It took me hours. It was embarrassing how hard it was, but that's where I was. But like in the video, I told myself, don't stop when you're tired, stop when you're done. And that's what I did. I didn't have any achievements, I didn't have a plan, and I didn't have any connections. But what I had was a body that I could push and teach that I was capable of doing hard things. That night started my journey of building up my confidence. I started to run 5K a day and do a lifting session all in the same day, every single day with no exceptions. Around the same time, I started making a bit of extra money through an online marketing venture. I didn't ask too many questions about the machine I was part of. When you're a guy from Estonia who's never made anything and suddenly people are offering to pay you, you don't ask too many questions. Once the initial few weeks of pain succeeded and it started to turn into a habit, I got into a groove. I started increasing the distances I ran and the intensity of my lifting sessions. I was starting to believe. 90 days into my journey, I already ran a 45-minute 10K. September 2020. It's peak COVID, so no marathons for big masses were held. Estonia held a virtual marathon that year. My dad drove me to my neighboring city 30k away, and I ran back to my hometown and around its lake in 4 hours 39 minutes. My dad was so scared for me. He didn't think I could do it. I still think about that. 6 months later, in March of 2021, the David Goggins 4x4x48 challenge. You had to run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours straight. 2 full marathons in 48 hours. Me and my friend Jürgen decided to do it together. It was a blizzard that weekend. The maddest suffering of my life thus far. More than 100,000 steps in 48 hours with barely any sleep. We did it, and I loved every second of it. Remember that crypto I'd bought? That 5,000 euros had become almost 100k. It was time to get out of my hometown. Me and the guy who pulled me into this marketing venture I talked about in the beginning. He was a good marketer from my hometown, and we were planning to go to Bali ever since crypto started pumping about 6 months prior. Before Bali, we decided to do another trip to Tenerife. To travel or basically do anything those days, you had to do a COVID test, if anyone remembers. I got a positive result on that first test, and I was like, okay, no biggie, I'll meet you the week prior, so I'll wait a week and I'll do another test. See you there, bro. I was positive from that point forward for 53 days. So anyway, I got a negative result. I immediately booked my Bali flight and celebrated by running half a marathon. That's the type of guy I'd become at that point.
I'm going to Bali, bitch! Fuck yeah!
As it was Mother's Day, I gave her a bouquet of flowers and broke the news to her that I'd be leaving that same day. She was shocked, but super excited for me. I told her I'd be gone for 3 months. It's been 5 years since that day. Traveling in those times was hectic. Bali was completely shut to tourists. My friend found us a window. You could get in with a business visa that opened for about a week. We took the opportunity straight away. To get there, I had to stop in Jakarta first, where I would have to spend 5 days in quarantine. The flight was in a full-size Airbus that was 98% empty. It was a total dystopia feeling. It was my first time going this far away from home, and I decided I'm not spending those 5 days in quarantine staring at walls alone. I spotted a random Ukrainian guy at the airport that I talked to for 5 minutes and approached him and asked him if he wanted to spend quarantine together. He looked at me like I was insane, which I kinda was, but he agreed immediately. Hilarious. The Indonesians had other plans though. They forced us into a 5-star luxury hotel that was 1,200 euros for the 5 nights, and we couldn't leave our floor. But the good thing was, we had a PlayStation, and I ran 10 kilometers in the hotel hallway every day like the guy I was at that point. He came out and filmed me, shaking his head the whole time and explaining to his friends over the phone what he was experiencing at that moment. That's honestly a core memory for me. We went our separate ways after we got to the airport in Jakarta, but we still talk on Instagram sometimes. That's the thing about travel. You can get these crazy scenarios that quarantine becomes a story you can tell for years and years to come. 5 days later, we finally got out. A short 2-hour flight from Bali. By the way, the security in Jakarta airport was like 10 layers. An absolute joke, asking for documents every step. COVID was absolutely nuts. 6 days earlier, I was in my mom's 50 square meter apartment. Now I'm in a villa in Seminyak with high glass doors and masseuses on call. 500 euros a month. Today, that same villa goes for around $400 a night. And Bali was completely empty. Some areas were genuinely like ghost towns. It makes sense, it was completely locked to tourists. So I considered myself lucky to be there at all, considering how the world was. Every tourist spot that normally had hour-long queues, just me. The traffic was quiet. If some of you have been to Bali right now, you know what I'm talking about. Felt like I had the whole island to myself. I had trained every morning as a non-negotiable, still doing my minimum 5K run and a lift session. The run happened. The lift happened every single day. The nights were becoming something else though. I met a US movie producer who pulled me into the Bali party scene. I started exploring Bali and nearby islands by day and partying by night. Still training every single morning, no matter what. And people always ask me about this phase of my life. How did you have the confidence to just move to the other side of the world just all alone and talk to complete strangers and take these huge bets on yourself over and over again? This is the answer, right here. When your body has proven to you by 6 a.m. every morning, no matter if you're hungover, exhausted, tired, whatever you're feeling, that you can go out there and do hard things, the rest of life just starts feeling manageable. Fitness isn't the reward for building a good life. It's the foundation you build your life on. About 6 months in, I started seeing the venture I'd been part of for what it actually was. I'd referred a lot of people into it. People I knew, people who trusted me. And when I actually looked at the numbers, only about 1 out of 10 people made any money at all. And the ones that did, mostly through referring others. I'd seen the articles, I knew what it looked like, and I kept going anyway. That guilt was the most honest thing I felt that year. So I quit. We moved villas every month with the bro. I saw every corner of Bali. I ended up settling in Canggu. There was no good infrastructure to hit morning runs. It was a bit too tight. There was hazards everywhere. I found Bull Gym, a hardcore bodybuilding gym, and I decided to pivot to strength training more and pause running for that time and build some size. One day in the gym, I bumped into an Estonian influencer couple who were on their honeymoon of all things and were traveling the world together. They're both bodybuilders. The husband is a multiple Estonian powerlifting champion and they're both champion bodybuilders. I convinced them to come stay at our villa because they were looking for a spot. The husband started mentoring me on technique, nutrition, and the mindset about making real strength gains and how to actually move weight. Under his guidance, I began rapidly improving. Over the next 7 months, I went on a bulk from 73 to 85 kilos. I hit a 170 kilo squat, 230 kilo deadlift, and 120 kilo bench. I was in the best shape of my life, with some of the best friends I'd ever made, and I had more freedom than I knew what to do with, but I was doing it all alone. And the money situation was getting serious. I wasn't bleeding dry at all, but what was true was that I was consistently spending way more than what was coming in for months. But I wasn't worried, because I'd still hit it big, by my standards. Hadn't even spent a quarter of what I'd made. Then, disaster struck. Crypto crashed, and I hadn't sold most of my holdings. The money I had became almost 20K overnight. I was chaotic, I was only 24, and I was completely convinced that I would never go broke again. You can't predict markets, but what you can do is put the money somewhere where it can't disappear overnight. And I learned that lesson the hard way. In trouble, I made another bet on myself. The only asset I'd never lost money on. I packed my bags. On Christmas Day 2022, I said goodbye to my friends and my life in Bali and went to Australia with almost nothing again. Perth is the most isolated city in the world. It's closer to Singapore than it is to Sydney. It runs on mining money and hard physical work. A huge portion of Perthlings either work FIFO or know someone who does. Fly in, fly out. The outback mines are the Australian economy. Everyone's either going to the desert or coming back from it. From a Bali villa with masseuses on call, I landed in Perth with 2 goals: land the FIFO job and rebuild my bank account. I had a working holiday maker visa, which was a maximum of 3 years. So from the moment I landed, I was on a timeline. I thought I'd use my trucking license from my military days to get in. I got the articulated dump truck ticket done and started applying. And months of nothing. And the more time pressed on, I knew I'd hate it anyway. 12 hours alone in a truck in the desert, that sounded like another level of stuck that I didn't want to get involved in. So I pivoted. The first 6 months were a grind to say the least. Construction laboring jobs, random traffic warden jobs. Some weeks I worked 50 hours and some weeks only 12, making anywhere from 300 to 1,500 Australian dollars a week. While my rent was 300, my car was 200, fuel and food. By the end of the week, I was out. I had about $20,000 left from Bali. I told myself I'm not touching any of that money, even though sometimes I had to, because that was the floor, something I could not let myself fall through again. So I worked, whatever I could find. Then I met Kevin. Kevin is an Estonian I'd connected with online years earlier. He was already scaffolding, already good at it, and he was already trying to get a FIFO job. He took me in his shared house and we started training together every day. And in the same time, he was teaching me the trade. There's something about finding your person in the right place at the right time. And Kevin was that for me. We became brothers. With his help, by June, 6 months after landing in Australia, we both got our first FIFO swing together. Fly in, fly out in the Western Australian outback. 12-hour shifts in 40 plus degree heat. Breathing in iron ore or silica dust. With a stupid amount of bush flies. Building scaffolds every day. 2,500 euros a week, the most I'd ever made from a job in my life. I remember finishing that first swing and thinking, here we go, time to make some money. I'd lived 6 months in total uncertainty every day, not knowing whether I was gonna make enough money to last a week. And then I just worked. As many swings as I got offered. The clock was ticking on that visa, and I was not gonna waste it. 4 months in, we took our first real break. A boys' trip back to Bali. The second I landed, that feeling of when I first arrived came back. I knew right then, I'm coming back. But I needed to finish my rebuild first. A few days before Christmas, I just finished my last swing of my first year. I'm flying home absolutely buzzing. I'd bought some flowers. And then something blindsided me. Something I thought was fine. Something I didn't see coming at all. I won't go into it, but it broke me in a way that the heat or the 12-hour shifts never could. For the first time since April 2020, I had stopped training. Almost 2 months of nothing. In January, there isn't much shutdown FIFO work, as they take a longer break after Christmas, so I was just there. I remember sitting in my room with nowhere to be and nothing pushing me forward. Just existing in that room like I used to just exist in that cheese factory. That was the thing that scared me the most. Not that situation itself, but the familiarity of it. Here's the thing about me. When life hits me hard like that, I generally don't spire dramatically. I kind of detach and go quiet. In life, the longer you stay still, the harder it is for you to get going again. In early 2024, I looked in the mirror and what I saw was not catastrophic, but soft, just off. I was not eating right, I was not moving enough, and I wasn't just doing enough things with my days. I felt like I was slowly reverting back to that person that I used to be, but then I remembered who I am again. I decided I'm not gonna just keep sitting here and watch myself fall apart again. All the proof I'd built over the years was still there. So I made a decision. Not a big one, just something that would move me again. I wanted to beat my deadlift record that I had set in the beginning of last year.
Yep. Easy.
That's the whole goal. So I got up and went to the gym straight after. One small physical target was all it took to start the engine again. Not a drastic self-reinvention or a new opportunity, just me and physical challenges. Your body always knows the way back before your mind does. You don't need to fix everything at once, so you don't need a revelation. Just that one small thing to get the snowball rolling again. Because the real goal, the only goal, is to never fully stop. That's the secret that I know now that I did not know in 2019. And I did end up beating it eventually. In that same session, I hit 240 kilograms. And because I felt crazy strong that day, I loaded 250 and pulled that too. 3 times my own body weight. I set that goal from a dark room, watching someone go soft, and I did it. In true me fashion, I immediately moved the goalposts again, and as of now, have even attempted 260 kilograms. And I didn't get it, but that's the thing about me. That's who I am. I'll always move the goalposts and end up trying something I can't do at that moment. But I have the belief that one day I can. Yeah, that's cool as fuck, bro. How many wheels does this have, eh?
That is very good.
It's May of 2024, right at the halfway point of my second year in Australia. I took a month off before the summer of that year. My first real break since the boys' trip. I decided on 2 weeks in Bali and then 2 weeks in Estonia. My first time home in 3 years. And then I met her. We spent 2 weeks together, and then I told her I won't be back for a while, but I want to keep talking. I went to Estonia. My family could see who I'd become, and I had an amazing time seeing them again. I love them so much. After the trip to Estonia, I went back to Australia to continue the grind. And then I went to visit her again. And after that second time, I knew. She challenged me and made me want to be better every day. So I built the system. Kevin was in charge of a shared house in Perth, and he let me keep all my tools there, all my workloads and my setup. So from July 2024 up until the end of my visa, I could do this. Work a swing, a week, 2, 3, sometimes 5 weeks in a row. And then fly to Bali straight after I got back to Perth. It's only a 3.5-hour flight to go spend my days off with her. That's the thing I can tell you about FIFO from my experience. Like, yes, you work in the heat, coughing up flies, breathing in the dust, but when you're off, you're completely free. There are no obligations, no office, no half measures, and I'm not glorifying it, because that was my experience. And you can comfortably afford the flights. We'd spend my days off together, getting closer every day, and then I'd fly back to Perth and repeat, week after week, month after month. From July 2024 to the end of my visa, we were long distance, but it never felt like a sacrifice. It felt like something worth working for. On Valentine's Day 2025, I proposed, and she said yes. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It was my proudest moment. And not because of the act of putting a ring on someone's finger. Just realizing and looking back to how far I'd come from 2019, from being that skinny kid in that cheese factory. It made me want to work even harder. I left Australia at the end of my visa with full confidence. And not because everything had gone perfectly or anything, but I genuinely worked so hard for every single cent, and I earned every bit of it. It was looking perfect. I had a contact I trusted for 5 years presenting what looked like a real opportunity. 3 separate reasons were all pointing to the same place. Now the question was, where? Her clothing brand had hit a wall in Bali. Production was a nightmare, and the economics didn't work. She'd been there since 2019, and wanted a change. The guy I'd known for years, he had a startup he wanted me involved in, marketing. We would be based in Vietnam. Perfect. So we moved to Vietnam. And what happened next? Well, he didn't deliver. Promises kept changing over the months, deadlines kept shifting forward, and it ended up just being me watching for 5 months with my fiance next to me. Someone I knew and trusted just not show up. Essentially, I moved my whole life here on a hunch, and I feel incredibly stupid for it. I own that misjudgment. But here's what I've learned. There's no such thing as stuck. Stuck is when you hold too tightly onto one single outcome and lose sight of everything else around you. And the moment I let go, I picked up my camera and you get this video. Which reminds me, if you like this video so far, please subscribe. That's the whole belief system, really. Every time a plan collapsed, something better showed up. Every time I lost everything, I ended up coming back with more. Not always money, but always something more. Estonia gave me hunger, Bali gave me freedom, Australia gave me discipline, and Vietnam, well, it gave me this. And here's why I'm telling you all of this. Because I know exactly where some of you are right now. Because you might be watching this with a hairnet on too. Maybe some of you literally. And I know that feeling underneath it. Not anger, not jealousy, but what's beneath that. A feeling that you're not enough, or you're a person that other people brush off. Like you're funny, maybe. Like you're likable, maybe. But you're not someone you would respect. That's where I was. I wasn't depressed about my circumstances, but I just looked myself in the mirror and thought, I wouldn't respect this person, and that's something I couldn't live with anymore. So one night I said I'm gonna do 1,000 push-ups. I'd never done more than maybe 200 in a day, and I couldn't do more than 10 to 15 at a time that night. It took me hours, and it was embarrassing to me. But I told myself I'd do it, and I did it. And something happened in that moment that I've been chasing ever since. It's something that I haven't been able to get from anywhere else. That feeling of when you told yourself you'd do something hard, and you actually do it. There is nothing like that in this world, because your brain doesn't care that it was just push-ups. Your brain got hard evidence. Evidence that when you give yourself a challenge, you'll actually follow through. Once you have that first bit of evidence, you have to move the goalposts, because that's the whole game. It's amazing what little bit of compounding can relatively quickly do to your life. And I'm not talking about becoming the most jacked guy in the gym. And I'm not talking about hustle culture or chasing someone else's version of success. If that's what you want, sure, you can have that. But I believe most of you are not looking for that. And I know what you might be thinking. You're not in a cheese factory and you're not at rock bottom. Maybe things are just fine, just comfortable enough, not bad enough to do something crazy like I did. I want to tell you something about that. Fine is the most dangerous place you can possibly be, because fine doesn't force you. Fine lets you stay. Fine is comfortable enough that you can keep scrolling, keep watching videos, keep telling yourself that one day when things get bad enough, you'll actually do something about it. I am telling you, you don't need a crisis and you don't need to be desperate. You just need to be slightly more uncomfortable with staying still than you are with moving. That's the only requirement that you need to have. I didn't do any of the things I did because I was brave or something. I did them because I was tired of feeling like nothing, and doing something painful at midnight sounded better than lying there doing nothing. You probably have that feeling too, or you've gotten really good at ignoring it. And all it's ever needed is just one physical thing. If you have to pause the video, get your notes out and write down 5 things off the top of your head that you know you should be doing and are avoiding. And then tomorrow morning, just pick one. Start your day doing something you'd normally never do. For some of you, it might be as easy as making your bed, the first thing you get out of bed every morning. For others, on your lunch break, go for a 20-minute walk. If you like watching TV after work, stretch on the floor for 20 minutes. Start learning a new language, something completely outside of what's normal for your life right now. And again, not because it'll change everything for you tomorrow, but because your brain needs one piece of evidence that you can. Watch the compounding that starts from there. I think it's one of life's most beautiful things. That's how you build someone capable of leaving a cheese factory. My dad spent 35 years in that cheese factory, and I've spent thousands of hours trying to escape it. We're different people, and he respects me for that. The version of you that already knows it's meant for more is waiting for you to start moving your goalposts. And I'm not starting this channel for motivation that fades by Tuesday. This is what I know actually works. Physical challenge, doing hard things, whatever they may be in that point of my life. Showing up when every part of you wants to stop. Because that's not how I just train. That's how I got here. I'm not here to tell you to be the best, but I am here to show you what happens when you don't stop moving. If that's you, you're in the right place.